What can you tell us about the use of these tanks?
Yeah, well, Jane, we wondered if they would turn up inside Russia in this offensive. They're with the 82nd Air Assault Brigade, which is one of the big, heavy brigades of the Ukrainians. I mean, we gave them 14 Challenger 2 tanks, and we know that one of them has been knocked out. Whether the other 12 or so have gone in total, we don't know, whether it's half a dozen or so. They have to be kept together because they have to be serviced separately to other tanks because they have different requirements. But it's logical, but it's a symbolic moment. A British Challenger 2 tank fighting inside Russia. We wouldn't have expected that a couple of years ago. But the Ministry of Defence has made it very clear. They said, we've given this equipment to Ukraine. They can use it for the defence of their frontier. And this is what this is. It's defence of their frontier. It's not an attack on Moscow or anything like that. So there it is. We'll see how they get on. They don't use them as the forward thrust. I mean, Western main battle tanks have been used almost behind the lines as artillery. Because in this war, the way this war has gone, it's tended to go with lighter vehicles and dismounted troops, with tanks following up rather than tanks leading. We'll see what role they play here if we get to see a bit more of them in the next week or two.
And what about the Russian pushback? We're not really seeing much of that yet, are we?
We're not, but they're taking it seriously. I mean, you know, the area that we're talking about, again, this is a long frontier, a frontier of 1,200 miles, land frontier, 2,000 kilometres. And here we are with this little piece of ground about 25, 30 miles long. But the Russians, although they say this is all under control, this is a bit of counter-terrorism and so on, in fact, it's affecting their regions, the three regions of Bryansk and Kursk and Belgorod, state of emergency in two of them, things happening all the way along the border. So the Russians are obviously discomforted, not just by what's happening here, but what's happening particularly further south in Belgorod. But equally, we know that they're digging trenches. And they're digging trenches quite a long way back from the area of the incursion. And we've got quite a lot now of satellite imagery of these trenches along the main highway, which is the E38. And the E38 highway runs east-west. There it is, there's the E38. And these are the trench lines observable now from satellites. And they've dug these within 2 or 3 days. They're advertising in Moscow and other cities for engineers to come and help build defences. There's lots of them, and they've now come to light. So the Russians are actually digging in just south of the E38, about 20 miles behind where the fighting is, and another 10 miles behind the KURSK nuclear power plant. And so they obviously feel that, although that would seem a stretch to most of us, the Russians are taking it seriously enough to build some trenches in front of it. And I think we'll see more of this. We'll see trenches and minefields. So they're establishing a backline before they bring more forces in to try to fight this battle to come.
And as we were talking, actually, we're just getting a report on the Newswire service saying that the Russian Defence Ministry say that they are bringing in steps to protect Belgorod. So they clearly are.
And they will need to. Again, that's further south. I mean, this is Kursk. Belgorod is another 100 miles further southwest, southeast rather. So they'll need to do something about that. And the fact that they're thinking in those terms shows that they are actually taking this more seriously than they say they are when they address the world's media.